Welcome to the seventh episode of Critically Realistic. In this podcast, we are searching to address controversial issues that affect our life and society. If you are sensible or getting offended easily, please stop the video and go back to your comfort zone. If not, please consider to like and subscribe. By doing so, you are helping us promote open conversation in a time of social crisis. In this episode, we will address the subject of equality. We will define and understand what are the complexities of this topic. As part of this conversation, we will answer questions as, what is equality? Did it ever truly existed? Can it really exist in a society? And most importantly, why it is used in such an unproductive manner currently in the West? Thank you for being part of a growing community that is searching to understand and want to fight for a better future. The following podcast is taken from my first book, Back to Ourselves. In the book, I'm trying to present a comprehensive explanation to our current Western crisis and build a logical path toward practical solutions that will promote a better future. You can find my book on Amazon or at my website at amitaiRosengart.com. Now, let's address the subject of equality. As a starting point, I believe it's important that we agree on a few guidelines. If we are all good at different things, as one is better than the other in music or mathematics and vice versa, then it's fair to say we are not equal in our physical and mental capacities. Humans have been gifted with a variety of different activities in which individuals achieve different results. The idea that we're all born as humans is a simplistic way to group us for the purpose of unification. Unification is positive, but it does not make us equal. We can say that all mammals are born the same way, but does this make us equal to a cow or a dog? In the reality of life, individuals are born with different capacities that make them a unique person. We are indeed closer to true equality than at any other point in human history, but believing that we currently live in an equal world or society is unrealistic. Equality, which is a broad concept, is a human creation that stems from our ability for conceptual ideas and words. No terms similar to the word equality can be found unrelated to human activities. In the ancient period, the use of political equality was a term which gave to a small amount of people, under certain standards, the same rights to practice politics while still enslaving another part of the population. Such a use of the term of equality was valid and practiced in the time of Aristotle, and it reappeared as a fundamental idea in England in the 13th century, and then during the creation of the United States. Following different forms of government in the history and political movement, we see different scenarios in which the idea of equality has been used. For example, Christian thinkers discuss individuals as equal in front of God. It's important to understand at this point that throughout human history, equality hasn't been used as an abstract term for a general equality by governments, religions, or other groups, as it contradicts the foundation of those systems. The concept of equality contradicts the concentration of power. Specifically, in our days, the idea of equality contradicts in many aspects the idea of capitalism. This will be discussed in the following chapter. So what is equality all about? One of the ways to approach this subject is to look at equality as a variety of social, political, and economic activities available to all individuals regardless of their gender, religion, origin, or social class. As practiced until today, equality can refer to rights in front of the law, equality of opportunity, equal political rights, and so on. Referring to equality without specifying the type of equality or by using it as a general term becomes a tool of mass manipulation. Society's elite have a responsibility to monitor the population's general perceptions of the world, making sure the masses understand terms used in society. If the population doesn't understand the values they're fighting for, it will weaken the society as a whole. Looking at the use of the term equality throughout history, only recently has it been used as a general social and economic philosophy. For example, the equality of the Frenchmen during the French Revolution doesn't refer to the equality of the French to the Germans or any other population. At the time of its founding, the equality of opportunity in the United States referred to white, land-owning American men and their political rights. Now, with globalization on its way, the concept of equality refers to the tyranny of Western population first, and then the rest of the world's populations. It's also important to mention that since the original mention of the word, the equality of the elite existed only thanks to the enslavement of the others. This is a trend that continued throughout history. Also, in our days, there's equality in Western civilization thanks to the enslavement of Eastern and African populations in ways of production, manufacturing, mining, and importation of goods. Only masters need slaves, never the opposite. Deeper understanding of this notion of equality will bring you, the intellectual reader, to the conclusion that equality by itself has been invented by elite groups for the sake of gaining cooperation of and separation from the rest of society. Looking back and understanding the use of the term of equality isn't all negative. It teaches us about our evolution, past societies, and ourselves. We're the first generation with access to the endless information available about our evolution. We'll look more at the big evolutional steps from the last 300 years in Chapter 3, but we may be on the verge of creating a reality in which, for the first time in history, equality can truly be referred to as a broad, global concept. The purpose of those writings is to support in at least one way such a process. Equality can be viewed two different ways based on what it requires from its subjects. A philosophy claiming that equality doesn't require anything from the individual is problematic, as then it's just an abstract idea. If an individual possesses an abstract thing that they never need to act on, they'll only feel its absence when it's taken from them. At this point, as the individual never did anything to acquire it in the first place, or never practiced it, they'll miss the tools needed to restore it if lost. Some may claim that because the person didn't do anything to acquire this equality, never used it, and doesn't have the tools to get it back, then that individual never actually had equality. Following that logical path, we can conclude that a philosophically abstract equality never truly exists for individuals. So, how can we use the concept of equality? Let's continue to follow our logic. For an individual to actually acquire the practice of equality, they'll have to gain those rights by taking action. This philosophy is straightforward. If an individual wants equal political rights, they'll be required to contribute to society politically. If an individual would like to have equality as a citizen, they must be an active part of their community. In this sort of equality, there must be a clear separation between what's required, how to monitor the system, and the actual equal traits. In such a system, it's important to maintain equal opportunities, which allow any person the opportunity to practice their rights to take part. It can be predicted that in such a system, the majority of the population will prefer not to practice part of the necessities to acquire a full and complete equality, as it'll require too much time and energy. The individual's free choice not to practice their rights and obtain true equality doesn't affect the same opportunities for others. As long as the entire population has the opportunity to practice their duties and earn their rights, that society will achieve a system of a healthy, relative equality. In the late 20th century, we began a conversation about equal human rights, which brought forward an idealistic set of human rights. This idealistic set, while positive and beautiful, is also deceptive. Western society determined what constitutes equal human rights, and it's so utopian that it can't be practiced or enforced in our society. If such a world was possible, decent people would surely be happy to practice it. But as long as we fail to create and protect relative equality in our own societies, we should leave other populations to handle themselves. It's impossible for a person to teach without learning first, and a society that hasn't learned or established such a system certainly can't preach one to other nations. The pursuit of the idea of equality is positive. but it requires practicality. The pursuit after abstract and unachievable concept is unhealthy for a society and dangerous for its neighbors. As we become more aware of the world, we become more aware of its misery. It is easier to try to correct other rather than facing one own problems. When approaching subjects that are so general and abstractive, it is important to understand that time is required for creating a real change. In those cases, it is not the result that matter, but the process, as it affects actual lives and shapes societies. Words creates concepts, that creates actions, that creates changes. The misconception of the concept of equality is dangerous. A wrong definition of the terms can create more misery to entire populations than to improve any current state. What do you think on the subject? If you like what you hear, please consider to like and subscribe. For more interesting conversations about complicated topics, check my channel or click the link for my website below. Thank you for sharing your time with us. We will cherish any comment or opinion, both positive and negative.